Hello, and welcome to the Building an Indie Business podcast with SupremeRumHam. I'm your host, Alex. Today, I'm going to be discussing how I learn new things. I'm going to walk you through how I use Twitter, how I use podcasts, and how I use YouTube. But first, I wanted to discuss some general podcast things. There's the Patreon page, which is used to support podcast improvements. So every dollar that's put in the Patreon page will go right back into the podcast. And recently, I have been posting a Buy Me a Coffee link on the in the show notes, but I haven't talked about it at all. And the Buy Me a Coffee link is just for one-time payments. So if you only want to support the podcast once instead of monthly, you can do it there. Okay, let's get started then. So the first thing I do is I clearly define what I want to learn. So recently, I started to learn how to design websites. So I wanted to learn how to make my design look professional. That was the first thing. Okay. Then on Twitter, I went to find experts in the field of design. So how you find an expert is, what I do is I look for the most well-known person in the industry. And then I look at who they follow and who they interact with. How do you find the most well-known person in the industry? Well, there's people that write books that everyone recommends. So, for example, this would be The Design of Everyday Things, or Don't Make Me Think in the design world. And what I am looking for with these experts on Twitter is I'm looking for book recommendations, specifically what to read as a beginner, the not so obvious books, like is there a psychology book that they read that helped them think about design a little better. And then I am looking for what they are currently reading to see any new books that I could read that would help me learn. I'm also looking for casual tips about the subject that I'm trying to learn. So sometimes on Twitter, people well known in the industry will post casual tweets about tips that will help people learn design. That's how Steve Shoger got started, and now he has a book called Refactoring UI, which is basically all his tweets that he did to help people out in a book. And finally, what I'm looking for is the links they post. I'm specifically looking for the secret society of designers that they all hang out in and how they learn design. No, I'm kidding. I'm just looking for like where they read stuff so I can go there too and be more current on trends in the industry and things like that. So I'm trying to see if there's a specific website that I missed that designers hang out in. And then I look for podcasts. And how I look for podcasts is I see where my Twitter experts have done interviews, and then I listen to their podcasts, and then I go to those places where they hang out online, and I see what those people recommend. And then I also just do a simple search for like design, and then I go through those podcasts and see if I like them. And finally, I go to YouTube to learn exactly how to do what I want to do. So when I was learning responsive design, I looked up responsive design in YouTube, and then I went through the videos to see what was good. And there's nothing special I do. I just go through each video. But if I find that there's one channel that constantly comes up in my searches, and I find that series of videos useful, I will subscribe and I will casually watch their videos. This is how I found one of my favorite Chrome extensions, and I will talk about that Chrome extension soon. Okay, so that's how I learn things online, specifically how I am learning design right now. Thank you for listening. If you want to reach me, you could reach me on Twitter, SupremeRumHam. You could email me, srhpodcast@gmail.com. There's also the Twitter page for the podcast, which is BAIB Podcast. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.